Hello, my name is Hakon, and welcome back, all you fabulous fighting fantasy aficionados, for yet another episode of Fighting Fantasy Gamebook Play as we tackle Talisman of Death for the fourth time. Now, technically, actually, when you think about it, I've only been defeated properly in this book once. And that is because in this book, unusually, you are given the option of turning back time and starting over from the beginning. Um, if you die in certain ways that allow the gods that have tasked you on a mission to destroy evil, yes, if you die in certain ways, they're able to save you in the sense that they can turn back the wheels of time and allow you to start from the beginning with your stats, with your provisions, with your potion, but not with the equipment that you picked up on the way. And it's only once that one of the envoys of death managed to defeat me well and proper that was not possible to do. So this is, in some ways, really my second playthrough in a sense as well. I didn't actually, the first time I played this, I chose not to use the resurrection thing of it, but this time I've chosen to do it. Partly because I got very good stats that I want to keep, and just to see if I feel that is a worthwhile way to do it. So I will, because I'm going to start over now, and I will not actually. Well, I will not go through the beginning again. So what is happening is that you wake up in what you understand is a different world to your own. You come from Earth, you wake up somewhere else entirely in a castle in the clouds, literally. And there is a bird that wakes you up and it speaks to you and says that you have to go and meet the gods. You are actually awakened in the garden of the gods. The gods tell you that they have tasked you and trained you in the art of swordsmanship for the purpose of finding the Talisman of Death and making sure that Death's minions do not use the talisman to summon the god known as Death, because if they manage to do that successfully, then Death will have won, so to speak, in the battle between good and evil, and all life as we know it will perish. There will only be Death and his minions living in their kind of undeath half-life left in the world. And one of the ways that this can be accomplished is to take the talisman and take it with you back to Earth. So your tasks are really as follows: find the Talisman of Death, find a way to get back to Earth, and then take it back with you. Simple, right? Okay. So in the beginning, you are sent down into the world itself, and the first thing you encounter is you are sent really to the location where the Talisman of Death would have been kept. But it has been picked up by a party of crusaders who are fighting against evil. And this is almost a sort of quintessential Dungeons and Dragons party, except, of course, they're all human. So there's a warrior, there's a priest, there's a wizard, and there's a paladin. And if you're honest with them, they immediately sort of decide that you are obviously meant by the gods to be the one to continue their quest, because at that moment they are being overrun by minions of evil, dark elves, and other creatures, and something that is described in a way that you might think it's some kind of demon of the deep, something like a Balrog or something like that. And they have the power, the wizard has the power to send one person with a teleport spell back to the surface out of the chasm in which you start, and being really, really lawful good people, they decide that they give you the talisman and they send you back to the surface, and then it's your task from there on in to find out how to save the world. So, and when you get resurrected in this game after journeying through it a little bit, you go back to the place just as you are being teleported up to the surface. And that's where we find ourselves as we begin today's game. So, without too much further ado and a sip of tea, let's get started. So let's play Talisman of Death for the 4th time. Okay, so here we are. We've got all my supplies down here on my desk. Got my book, got my maps from the last 2 playthroughs here, and got my character sheet. And of course now I know my character already because this is the one I made last time, and I got a skill of 12, stamina of 22, luck of 10 and 10 provisions, and also I have my potion of stamina. And also, if you see that I'm holding the pen in a strange way, I did some gardening yesterday and I managed to hurt my thumb. I have no idea what I did with it, but it's must have bumped it really hard into something and it's very sore there. So I can't put any pressure on it now, which is a bit annoying. So I'm having to be a little bit careful with that. It shouldn't hamper me too much. Luckily, I suppose I am on holiday this week, so I don't have any serious hard work I need to do, which is why I can do this instead. Brilliant. Okay, so we start in medias res, as they say, and in the middle of the action, and I go to 125. Let's double check I've got the right shot here. Okay, so we have, yeah, that's about right. Yeah, okay, let's get started. Dark elves and cave trolls are pouring into the cavern, attacking the shield maiden. That's one of the people from the party. As the paladin and priest rush to her aid, you see a huge shadowy form looming behind the sea of elves and trolls. The paladin's glittering sword cuts through the horde, but the dark elves are using magic, and the shield maiden is unable to turn back their attack. She falls beneath their onslaught. The huge fiend howls triumphantly, just as the wizard completes his spell. Turn to 185. Or actually, at this point, you also have, 10 gold pieces, and you have the Talisman of Death. But not for long, because it looks like it is inevitable it will be taken from you in this book. Okay. Suddenly you are in blinding sunshine. You are standing at the lip of an immense chasm. You realize that this must be the rift the Crusaders spoke of. The rocky earth is blackened and cracked, full of pits and fissures, and noisome fumes rise from the depths of the chasm. To the west you see a range of green hills, partially covered in trees and thick woodland. A few hundred meters to your right, you can see where a forest begins, extending all the way to the hills. You realize that you must head in the direction of the hills to reach Greyguilds. Yes, you are tasked by the Crusaders to go to a town called Greyguilds on the moor. But which route will you take? If you go through the forest, turn to 256. If you would rather take the more direct route across open ground, turn to 134. Now, if you go across open ground, you are suddenly finding yourself sort of between an army of dark elves and an army of orcs, and you have to sort of outrun them. Apparently the dark elves are after the orcs, but they're also after you, and so it's just a lot of running, and you don't seem to get any benefit out of it. If, however, you go through the forest, you are able to meet a druid who is a follower of the goddess known as the All-Mother, the goddess of life, pretty much. And by meeting him and helping sort of feeding his wolf, as you do, you also get help of a druid again in the town when you get to it, and you get some benefits out of that. So I'm going to go through the forest and go to 256. You enter the green, gloomy shade of the woods. After a while, you stumble into a clearing and stop in surprise at the sight that greets you. A huge white she-wolf, almost as large as a pony, is suckling 2 cubs. She pushes them aside and crouches, snarling. Will you back off and leave? Offer the wolf some dried meat, or attack her? Well, so I know that the correct answer, or certainly it seems the correct answer, is to offer the wolf some dried meat. It seems to be the optimum choice. So, cross one of your provisions off your adventure sheet. Okay, so we have now provisions 9. There we are. Crouching on one knee, you toss the dried meat to the wolf, speaking in soothing tones as you do so. The wolf accepts your gift. Then a green-robed figure steps into the clearing. He has an oak staff in one hand and a silver sickle in the other. A crown of mistletoe rests on his head. He smiles at you and says, "My name is Wodeman. I am the guardian druid of this sacred grove. My friend, Snowmane, thanks you for the gift of food. Such gentle generosity deserves reward. The blessing of the druids will go with you. May fortune smile on you." You gain 1 luck point, which I can't get because I haven't lost any. "You look weary," he says. "Here, have this." He takes a golden apple from his robes and hands it to you. So, I've got a golden apple, which gives me back 4 stamina when I eat it. Yes. Such apples are wonderfully refreshing and will restore up to 4 stamina points when you eat one. You thank him, and knowing you must continue on your quest, reluctantly leave the idyllic peace of the sacred grove. Turn to 159. So I give up a ration, and I get a ration, and I get to meet Wodeman, which is the important thing for later. You force through the heavy undergrowth for some time, making your way over the hill and into the thick wooded valley on the other side. You then take a trail heading west and are making good speed until, rounding a corner, you see a huge brown-scaled lizard with 8 legs, basking in the sun. Its heavy-horned jaw is filled with long pointed teeth. I just realized the sound was on my computer. You may test your luck to see if you can slip past without waking it. If you are lucky, turn to 267. If you are unlucky, turn to 135. If you prefer not to take the risk and leave the path to cut a way through the undergrowth, turn to 384. Now, of course, 8-legged lizards of a certain size are, as we all know, basilisks. And basilisks, like gorgons and medusae, of course, they can petrify things with their gaze. So you do want to stay well clear of one. And I've tried both options now. I've tried going through the undergrowth, and I've tried sneaking past on the path, and also sneaking past verified my theory that it was indeed a basilisk. But I'm going to cut through the undergrowth because that seems to be the best and safest choice. Also, I don't use a luck point for it. You hack your way through the undergrowth, but dense thorn bushes make progress slow and difficult. You are soon panting for breath, and exertion has made you hungry. You must eat. Cross 1 provision off your adventure sheet if you do not gain any stamina from this meal. So that's what you lose 1 provision, or you lose 1 luck point. I will choose provision any time. Just check that it is properly marked on the map. 80 more. Okay, unlucky. It's not very clear there. So -1 prov. I'll just put that on my map so I remember. And I go to 65. Eventually, the hills give way to a desolate grey moor stretching out to the west. After half an hour or so, you see a cloud of dust ahead. You can soon make out a group of 20 horsemen. They wheel their steeds towards you, and the drumming of hoofs carries to you over the breeze. As they get nearer, you can see that this is a band of warrior women clad in chainmail and studded leather armor. Their faces look grim and unwelcoming as they wheel around you, forming a closed circle. The captain spurs her horse forward and tersely demands what you are doing there, out here, alone on the edge of the moor. Will you tell them about your quest? Say that you are from another world. Tell them that you are the last survivor of an ambushed caravan. Pretend that you are deaf and dumb, or demand they escort you to Greygills on the Moor. Now, what seems to be the best option, because I know a few of them certainly that take your weapon away from you and sort of keep you captive. The best option seems to be to pretend to be deaf and dumb. So I'm going to go with that. And it's important to keep up the pretense because they are trying to trick you just to make sure, or at least so they think, to see if you actually are speaking the truth. Or, well, not speaking really, mumbling the truth, muttering the truth, grunting the truth, yes. You make some unintelligible signs and grunts, pointing to your mouth and ears. For a moment, some of them think that you are casting a spell and draw their swords, but soon you hear one of them saying, "A deaf warrior. Well, there's a turn-up for the scrolls." The captain motions you to mount behind one of the younger women, Elvira, who does not seem pleased at having to share her horse with you. You ride for some time, and after a while the women resume their normal conversation. You realize they are members of the Watch, or law enforcers, from Greygills on the Moor. You also realize that there is rivalry between them and the priestesses of the Old Mother in that city. It appears that the leniency of the priestesses has annoyed them. Turn to 197. Suddenly from behind you the captain shouts, "Look out! Ambush! Everybody duck!" You hear the sound of an arrow whistling through the air as Elvira ducks in front of you. Will you duck, or wait to see what happens? And this is where they're trying to trick you, because if you duck, you're sort of showing that you heard the arrow, you heard the shouting. Possibly also you could pretend that you just saw somebody else duck and so you ducked, but that can't be explained if you're deaf and dumb, so you wait to see what happens to keep up the pretense that you are deaf and dumb. Okay, so realizing that the whole thing was a trick designed to test you, you make no move, and the arrow, fired by one of the women, thuds harmlessly into a tree. They now believe that you are truly deaf and dumb. You ride on into the late afternoon, moving from the wilderness to a grey and desolate moor. Ahead you can see the walls of a large city. A salute is given as you approach the huge arched gate in the fortified wall. The captain gestures you to dismount and waves you into Greygills itself. Thankful for your escort, you wave farewell and set out to discover if there is any way of returning to Earth. Turn to 296. So, by pretending to be deaf and dumb, you're actually buying a little bit of time now. You have your sword with you, as opposed to it being taken from you, because if it gets taken from you, you have 2 less skill points to fight with, and that can be quite crucial if you bump into the Envoy of Death, for instance. You walk into the city along a street called Moorgate. Many of the buildings are quite grand, built of light grey stone. The streets are crowded with a mixture of people shopping and young men and women carrying books and scrolls. Will you walk down a continuation of Moorgate called Store Street, or turn left into Smith Street? Now, I still haven't explored the city properly, but what I do know is that going down Store Street will lead me to certainly some beneficial things that will help me in my quest. So I'm not going to go down Smith Street this time. I'm going to go down Store Street. You are now in Store Street. It is crowded with shoppers, but your attention is drawn to a woman in green robes who is looking at you speculatively. Her straight hair is cut fairly short, and she is wearing no ornaments. She crosses the street and asks politely in a quiet but clear voice, "I believe you are a stranger in this city. Who are you and where have you come from?" Would you tell her that you are on a holy quest and have crossed the wilderness? Or say that you are just passing through and start to walk briskly on? I'm going to tell her I'm on a holy quest and that I walked through the wilderness. That seems to be the... well, it doesn't not only seem... that is the best choice in this case. You have come across the wilderness. Did you by any chance come across a man dressed in green robes similar to my own? He would have carried an oak staff and worn a crown of mistletoe. He would have told you his name. Would you answer, I did not meet him. His name was Dwithian, or his name was Woodman. And we know his name was Woodman because he is the druid I met in the clearing in the forest with a white wolf. And so I go to 166. Smiling delightedly, she asks about Woodman. You tell her what happened in the sacred grove. Then you are welcome at the temple. I am Lilantha, a priestess of the Old Mother, Fountain of Life. I am on my way to prayer. Perhaps you would like to join me. Will you accompany her or decline and say you must be on your way? I will accompany her, so I'm going to go to 117. You walk with the priestess into a small grassy square. On the far side of the square stands a magnificent tiered temple, covered by a wonderful hanging garden. A flock of many types of small coloured birds takes flight as you pass 2 guards and enter through the wide green doors. Inside is a long hall decorated with flowers. You both kneel in prayer before the altar, which is loaded with grain and fruit. She prays for the protection of all living things. After a few moments of reflection, she takes your hand in hers and leads you into a small room at the side of the hall. On the stand is a suit of silvery chainmail. Lilantha says, The All-Mother has spoken to me of your quest. She wishes you to take this. It may be of help. Thanking her, you put on the chainmail, which is miraculously light. It is obviously magical. Gain 1 skill point. So we now have, for combat purposes, a skill of 13, which is very useful. One final thing. The gates are guarded by followers of the All-Mother on the evenings of market days and for all 3 days following. If you wish to leave the city without others knowing, leave then. Okay, that's interesting. So the gates are guarded by followers of the All-Mother on the evenings of market days and for 3 days after. Okay, so that I presume that is information that will be useful to me at some point. So I'll just put down here at 117. If I can find this here now, 117, so that's also a clue there. I can look that up later. So let's see, 117, clue 117. So hints, very useful. Okay. You thank her and leave, and leaving the piece of the temple, return to the hubbub of Store Street. Turn to 130. As you walk along Store Street once more, you notice that the stores are closing. The throng of people hurrying home parts to make way for a large black carriage drawn by 2 black mares. They carry plumed headdresses made of long black feathers. A cloaked coachman stares grimly ahead. You step into the gutter to let the coach pass on. And as you do so, the coachman reins in. Inside you see an empty black coffin, with the name inscribed in silver letters on the lid, Is Your Own. The door of the funeral carriage opens and the handsome man with a silver cane steps down. He is dressed in the finest silver satin and sable furs. A storekeeper greets him. He smiles and nods, then turns to you. I am the envoy of death. I have come for the talisman, he says in a voice of doom. As you prepare to resist, a startling transformation takes place, which seems to be ignored by all around. His magnificent furs turn to rags. Where once blue eyes looked out from a finely featured face, now hollow sockets gaze at you from a blackened and cracked skull. His skeletal hand now grips a tarnished rapier. You realize that nobody else can see this transformation. Give it to me, he says. Will you? Give him the talisman, if you have it. Attack him immediately, or deny that you have it. Now, if you deny that you have it, he attacks you first, and so you are injured already. If you give him the talisman, that sounds like a terrible idea, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to attack him immediately, because then I get one hit in before the battle starts, and it gives me a slight upper hand, which you need in this battle, because this is the one that killed me on my second playthrough. Okay, so you catch it by surprise and strike it a mighty blow. It hisses in rage and pain and lunges at you with its rapier. You must fight the envoy of death. Each time it strikes you, you lose 1 skill point as well as normal stamina loss, and that is a dangerous thing, of course. So if you have a disadvantage to start with, your skill keeps going down, and then you don't stand a chance. Now, because I hit it already, it only has 4 stamina, so I am currently at 13, 22, and this guy has 8, 4. Oh, I can't write with this thumb. Okay, so I've got a 5 skill point advantage, so let's see how that goes. Well, he rolls a 6, I roll an 8, he's down to 2. He rolls a 7, I roll a 10, and he is deader than he was before. So if you win, 10 to 254. Your last blow meets no resistance. The skeletal form collapses to the ground in a heap. All is silent except for a sudden keening of the wind. You rest and begin to overcome the shock to your system. If you have lost any skill points, all except 1 are restored. Cautiously, you continue along Store Street and then down a tree-lined avenue called Booker's Walk. 2 very grand buildings built of blocks of grey stone stand on either side of the road. A group of young people in blue togas, escorted by a white-haired old man in pale blue robes, enters the building opposite. A flag showing books and scrolls is flying from the nearest building. It appears to be a library. Will you see what information the library has to offer, or investigate the other building to find out what the young people are doing? Okay, so last time I checked out the library. I did check out the library. Maybe this time I should check out the other building to see what the young people are doing. Right. You slip inside the huge building and walk cautiously down empty corridors. You find a reading room and decide to look at some of the scrolls. You find one which tells you that the women who brought you to Greygills worship Fel Kirinla. Another lists the different types of magic and the names given to those who practice them. Warlocks, shamans, witches, necromancers, elementalists, thaumaturgists, demonists, kabbalists, spellbinders, and many more. The necromancer's magic interests you, for these are the death magicians who perform human sacrifices and other unspeakable abominations in their pursuit of power. Then you notice a red book bound in strange multicolored scales. It seems to beckon you. Will you open the tome or leave before you are discovered? Now that sounds like an evil book that I should stay well clear of to me. So let's see, we have the option of 262 open or 186 leave. I think I'm going to leave that book well alone, because that sounds like something that could injure me in some way or other. You leave the building and continue on down Booker's Walk. Oh, hang on. Already got on 186 there. Let's see. 186. Okay, I had that from last time as well. Okay, so you leave the building and continue on down Booker's Walk. The streets are already deserted and there are few lights in this part of the city. You search for the welcoming light of an inn. Then, without warning, the steel teeth of a hidden man-trap snap shut round your leg. ripping your flesh. You are in terrible pain. Lose 2 stamina points. Shadowy figures loom out of the murk all around you. Their faces glow with a sickly pallor in the moonlight. They are wearing black robes clasped at the neck by shrunken human skulls. Do you still have the Talisman of Death? Well, not for long. Turn to 162. We are the Priesthood of Death, says one of the figures. We have come for what is ours. Your arms are held and you are searched. The talisman is torn from you by their leader. I have it, brothers. I have it, he exclaims in triumph. Now may our Lord enter his kingdom. They cheer loudly, oblivious to the approach of a large group of riders. Stand, make no move. A woman's voice rings out. It is the watch. One of the priests mumbles an unholy incantation. You see a wave of fear break over the women on their steeds. Some cannot control their horses, others flee, but the bravest charge the priests with loud cries of battle. The priests are unprepared. Some are knocked to the ground, others make good their escape, as silently as they came. The talisman falls to the ground, its bearer decapitated as he turns to flee. It is caught up by one of the watch, who announces her intention of taking it to the temple of Fel Kirinla. They wheel their horses and ride away, leaving you to rot. You have lost the talisman. Cursing bitterly, you resolve that if you escape, you will not rest until you have regained it. Turn to 128. Well, I think you are going to rest before you regain it, but yeah. You are left alone to wonder how the lawkeepers of this city could be so cruel as to leave an innocent person in such dire straits. You tear feverishly at the trap, terrified of some footpad slitting your throat for his own vile amusement. Soft footsteps approach. You look over your shoulder and see a man approaching. Here, he says, let me rescue you from this trap. He steps on the release catch, which had been out of your reach, and the trap springs open. You step free and he walks along by your side. Have you a place to stay tonight? Perhaps you would like to sleep in my humble abode, he says, looking sideways at you. You're curious that he should be walking the streets alone at night, but you're also exhausted. Will you accept his offer and go home with him? I will. The man's house is a small stone bungalow. He leads you into his bedroom and offers you a straw-filled mattress behind a curtain. Thankful for the chance to rest, you go to sleep without asking any questions. You sleep deeply and regain 4 stamina points. So my stamina is back to 22. You wake to find that your host is sitting, watching you. I hope you are well rested. You talked in your sleep. He smiles at you and says, do you need help? Has someone stolen something from you? How did you come to be trapped alone on the street late at night? If you want to tell him the whole story and ask him for advice, turn to 98. If you would prefer to say that you cannot answer, turn to 92. But I'm going to tell him the whole story because he is a good guy. Okay. You tell him everything and he listens with growing amazement. He introduces himself as Apothecus, a sage of history. I have heard of the Talisman of Death. You must recover it at all costs. He suggests that you enlist the help of the Thieves' Guild, as he doesn't think you can recapture it alone. It will be in the temple to Fel Kirinla by now, I'll warrant. Hakon, the great priestess, will be holding it there. Go to the Red Dragon Inn on the Street of 7 Sins. It is dangerous, but you may make contact with the thieves there. He gives you a breakfast of savory pancakes and invites you to dinner that evening, saying that he will try to discover more to aid you. In the meantime, he says, take these. He hands you 5 pieces of gold, so I've now got 15, and a ring. It is a ring which increases your skill at arms. So actually I've got my chainmail +1, and I've also got a ring +1 and an effective attack strength of 14. Add 1 to your skill score while wearing this ring. As you leave, he gives you a jade rose. When you return this evening, show this, and I will know that you are not a shape changer. You thank him for his help and leave the bungalow. Will you go to the Red Dragon Inn or head for the temple? I'm going to go for the Red Dragon Inn. Because everyone who's trying to help me seems to suggest I should get the help of the Thieves Guild. I'm thinking that is probably the only way to get back the talisman. You take a side street which leads towards the Street of Seven Sins and are almost pushed aside by a couple of students in blue togas. They are quarrelling and begin fighting in front of you. It seems one of them disagrees violently with something the other has said. As they tussle, you notice that the angry young man has dropped a small brass tiger charm. Will you interrupt the quarrel and give the charm back, ignore them and go on your way, or pick up the charm? Now, I know that the charm, if you pick it up, it will cause you to create a quarrel with someone. So it's the charm that is causing it. So I'm just going to ignore them and go away. I don't think if interrupting the quarrel and giving the charm back will help either, but I know that going away definitely is okay. So you come out into the Street of Seven Sins and soon find the Red Dragon Inn. Steps lead downwards, and the sound of raucous laughter floats up from the smoke-filled gloom below. You enter and walk over to the only part of the dive where it is light enough to make anything out. Passing tables and stools, you come to the bar, behind which stands the bulky proprietor of the inn. Do you have the brass tiger charm? No, I do not. If you do have it, you'll pick a fight with the bartender and you'll insult him. You ask the barman for a mug of ale. While he pours you your drink, your eyes adjust to the gloom and you survey his customers. You have never seen a more disreputable bunch of villainous-looking cutthroats. The barman says, "That will be a piece of gold." So I'm down to 14. You hand over the money. As you replace your money pouch, a dozen pairs of eyes watch closely. The only one who doesn't watch is a stooped old man cleaning slops off an empty table. Will you talk to the barman? Walk over to the old man, approach 6 surly-looking men who look like thieves. I'm just going to go straight over to the thieves, I think. Let's see. The other options don't seem to do much good, I think, if I remember correctly. Let's see, 88. I suppose I could talk to the barman in case he has any other sort of clues for me. Okay, I'm going to talk to the barman a little bit. So I'll just go to 88. The barman says, "You're not like my usual customers. A rough lot comes in here. Most days, these fellows don't rely on charity for a crust, you know. Would you try to make friends and ask him how he keeps order, or ask him how they get their money?" Last time I asked him about how he keeps order. That was right. I'm just going to ask how they get their money. The surly men around the ale cellar scowl at you. The barman says, "Don't know, I'm sure. Why don't you ask them?" And then shuts up. One of the men at the table of 6 says menacingly, "Yes, come on and ask us." Turn to 280. Okay, so that only leads to... These all lead to the same place, really. So, also 280. So, regardless of what you do there, you end up at 280, which is speaking to the thieves. You introduce yourself to the motley group of villains. It's a bit of sort of prejudice going on here, isn't there? They do not reply. You persevere, saying that you only wish to speak to them for a few moments. One of them, whose face is marked by a jagged scar running from ear to chin, fixes you with a stare and grates. We don't care for the law, so watch yourself. You could be dead before you know we'd moved. Will you ask them the way to the Thieves' Guild? Say you need help with some unfinished business, or boldly retort that their threats don't scare you. I'm going to say I need help with some unfinished business, because I think that's the best sort of keyword for saying I need their help. They appear interested and offer you some ale. You accept the mug and do not drink. You suggest that in helping you, they might gain a great deal. They agree to meet you and tell you to come to the Thieves' Guild at midday tomorrow, via the disguised coal hole in Hornbeam Road. You begin to chat to them. Turn to 169. Yes. Okay. 169. Okay. Two newcomers enter the Red Dragon ale cellar. The first is a very tall, wiry man whose frame is draped in a black cloak. The only hint of color is his hair, very curly and dyed bright corn yellow. The second is a handsome young woman dressed in a bizarre patchwork of armor. The barman mutters under his breath, then forces his face into a smile. "Chichov, Cassandra, welcome," he shouts obsequiously. The thieves move away from you to sit at another table. Chichov strolls to the bar and orders a drink. Cassandra sits opposite you at your table. She ignores you and Chichov joins her. Will you say nothing, get up and leave the ale cellar, or introduce yourself? Now, of course, this is a point where it seems many of the paths lead to you having to fight those two. I don't know yet if it's possible to avoid, but let's find out. So I think I'll try to get up and leave at this point. Probably won't be allowed to, but... "Stay," says Chichov, arrogantly gesturing you back to your seat. Will you keep going, or do as he bids and return to your stool? Okay. It looks like if I try to go now, he's going to fight anyway, so it's 316. I'm going to keep going. You don't walk out on Chichov. They leap up, whipping out their blades, and move to attack. Turn to 368. Okay, so it seems there is absolutely no way to get out of this battle at all. So I'm then going to 368. Okay, from... So I was on paragraph 316. And so that is going to 368. There's a lot going on in the transition from one page of my map to the other there, which isn't very practical, but let's see. Let's see. Chichov's sword is almost as tall as you are, and he wields it negligently in one hand. Cassandra's glows coldly. Each time she hits you, you must subtract 3 stamina points. So I'm fighting both of these at the same time, and it says if you reduce Cassandra's stamina to 4 or less, she drops back, and Chichov moves in to cover her. If you reduce Chichov's stamina to 4 or less, turn to 353. So what I want to do is really to attack Chichov first and get him down to 4 stamina points. So I am currently on 1422, and Cassandra is 9, 10, and Chichov is 10, 12. So fighting both at the same time means, of course, I have to do attack rolls against both, but if I succeed against Cassandra, if I succeed against her, I don't injure her, but if she succeeds against me, she injures me. So First of all, Tuchel I've got a 4 skill point advantage. So he rolls 6, I roll 7, so he is down 2 points. Cassandra, I've got a 5 point advantage. She rolls a 5, I roll an 8, so nobody gets injured there. Tuchel again rolls a 9, I roll a 9, so he's down to 8. Cassandra rolls a 7, I roll a 5, so nothing happens. Tuchel rolls a 2, I roll 3, he's down to 6. Cassandra rolls 6, I roll 4. I'm fine still, I'm still parrying her attacks. Tuchel rolls 11, and I roll 6, which means that he hits me for 2 points. And Cassandra rolls a 5, I roll 11, so that is fine. I'm parrying her attack still. Tuchel rolls 6, and I roll a 9, and so he's down to 4 hit points, and that means I go to 353, which means I've won the battle. Not by killing him, but by defeating him. Your last blow has drawn a gout of blood from Tuchev's side. He jumps back and says, "Anarkil, breaker of edifices, aid me." He is calling upon his god. Before you can strike the killing blow, the cellar starts to shake. An earthquake opens great cracks in the floor. There is a roar of tumbling masonry, and the inn is filled with dust. In the confusion, Tuchel and Cassandra make good their escape. When the quake has stopped, you climb the steps and leave. Turn to 289. You step out, squinting against the bright light of the late afternoon sun. Add 1 luck point for visiting the Red Dragon Inn and living to tell the tale. I do have that on my map, yes. I don't have any luck to regain, so that's fine. You are back in the Street of Seven Sins. If you have met a sage and he has invited you to dinner, you may turn to 229. And that is what happened, indeed. On your way towards the sage's house, a small boy runs up to you and asks if you'd like to help a very clever scholar and make some money doing it. It won't take long, he adds, tugging at your sleeve. You want to thank him but decline and go on your way, or will you go with the boy? I think that if I go with this boy, he's going to steal the jade rose that I was given by the sage, because otherwise the next paragraph doesn't make any sense. So I'm going to decline and go on my way. You come to the door of the sage's house and knock. After a few moments, a manservant opens the door. You explain that you have come to see the sage. The manservant asks you for the token. Do you have the token? So the only way you could have lost the token, as far as I can tell, is in that previous paragraph when in the encounter with the boy. So I do have the token, and I go to paragraph 6. So that is the jade rose that he gave me when I met him earlier. The servant says, "Ah, yes, you are expected. Please come in." You follow him into the parlor. The dining table is laid for 3. Apothecus rises to greet you and introduces you to his friend, Diodorus, a sage who is an expert on travel between the planes of existence. He tells you that there are portals or gates allowing travel between Orb and other worlds. He suspects that you may have been brought from Earth to Orb by means of such a portal. When you recover the talisman, he says, you must leave Greygilds and walk southeast until you come to the Great Plateau. Mount Starreach, the tallest mountain on the plateau, has at its summit one of these portals, through which you must pass if you wish to return to Earth. And now to more immediate matters, says Apothecus. You can leave the city by the postern gate in the cemetery. If you get into serious trouble, you may be able to call on the All-Mother for aid. To do so, cry, All-Mother, nature herself, preserve me. So a bit like what Churchill just did with Anarkil. He makes you repeat the words and you commit them to memory. Note them on the adventure sheet. Okay, so we have call for help from the deity, All-Mother, Mother, nature herself. That should really be nature with a capital N, I think. Preserve me. Okay. He explains that the All-Mother is the fountain of all life, the opposite of death. She may be prepared to help you, but only once, at the time of your greatest need. However, remember that there's no deity can intervene in another's temple. So if I go to the Temple of Death, yeah, or also in the Temple of Falkirilla, of course, as well. You thank them both and turn in early after the sumptuous meal of peacock, basted in spirits of Ra and other exotic dishes. You wake up refreshed. Gain 4 stamina points. So that's the second time you rested since you vowed not to rest until you regained the talisman. Right, I am at 22. Okay, so that's fine. You bid Apothecus farewell, thanking him for all his help and hoping that you won't let him down. You set out to find the Thieves' Guild, turn to 64. As you set off, you see a small group of people clustered around a man wearing a flowing grey cloak and one dangling gold earring. He is making huge bunches of flowers appear and disappear to cries of delight and amusement from the crowd. Will you try to find a way into the Thieves' Guild? Try to regain the talisman on your own, or stay and watch the magic. Now, I know that if I go into the Thieves' Guild, by the way that has been told me by these people, there is actually a trap at the entrance and you need luck to get past it. Now, the question is there another way in, and is this the key to getting it? And I don't know. I'm also thinking that watching the magic show on the street is a surefire way to get burgled or to get pickpocketed, because that is a typical MO for pickpockets to work together with street entertainers who are also thieves, and they're trying to distract people so they can take things from them. So I think I'm just going to try to find my way into the Thieves' Guild and take it from there. So, have you been told about the storm drain? I have. So I'm going to turn to 183. You turn right down Traders Row and walk for some way looking for the storm drain. Eventually you see it and, checking that you are unobserved, jump down it. Land up to your ankles in slime. You weigh down the huge drain until you come to a small round door set in the left-hand wall. Test your luck. And I am lucky, luckily. It looks like quite a nasty trap. As you open the door, you slip on the slime underfoot. A glancing blow catches you on the side as a harpoon thuds into the door. Lose 2 stamina points. If you're still alive, you look behind and see the firing mechanism of the trap. You open the door and step into a magnificently furnished room. Evidently, the Thieves' Guild lacks nothing. A group of men, some of whom you recognize from the Red Dragon, are lounging on sofas. They leap to their feet in surprise and reach for their swords. Will you place your back to the wall and draw your sword, or calmly tell them that you have been invited? I'm going to calmly tell them I have been invited. If we had really wanted you to come, don't you think we would have told you the safe route, says a thief with a scar running from ear to chin, whom you recognize from the Red Dragon. They move towards you purposefully. This is the welcome we give to the likes of you, he continues. Will you place your back to the wall and draw your sword, or sit down telling them to kill you if they like, but they'll miss out on an attractive proposition? That's what I'll do. I'm going to go to 209. Scarface looks you up and down for a moment. Then he says, "Right, I'll get the Guildmaster. We'll see what he has to say." There is an uneasy silence before he returns with another man. Scarface says, "This is Vagrant, Guildmaster of Thieves." Vagrant is a handsome middle-aged man wearing an ermine jacket. Twirling his moustache, he asks you the purpose of your visit. What will you say? You need help to steal something. You want to steal the Talisman of Death, or you will lead them to a hoard of priceless jewelry. Now, what was it I said the first time? Because if I say the wrong thing, I'll suddenly be out in the cold and I'll get no help whatsoever. So, Let's find out where we are now. So, right. So last time I tried saying that I will lead them to a hoard of priceless jewelry. That didn't work. If I said the talisman, that did work. I'm just going to say I want to steal the Talisman of Death again. Hang on, I'll just do a save game now. And I'll just try. I'm going to go back here. I'll try to see if the last option works or not. So you need help to steal something. So, oh yes, says Vagrant. What is this thing? If you say you're not prepared to tell what it is, but it lies in the temple of Fel Kirinla, turn to 370. If you tell them it's the Talisman of Death and you are prepared to share the spoils when you get it, turn to 276. So, 370. Let's see if this path actually works as well now. No, yes. So actually the only correct thing to do is to tell them that you want to steal the Talisman of Death. Okay. Yeah, so that is... Okay. So I'm going to tell them I want to steal the Talisman of Death. There is a hushed silence, broken by Vagrant. That is indeed beyond price. He suddenly barks out an order. We'll mount an expedition before they move the talisman. It is market day. A good time. Scarface, Jemmy the Rat, Bloodheart, and young Lord Min, you will accompany our friend here. Some hours later, when they have finished their preparations to set off. As you leave, you see a piece of graffiti scrawled in blood on a wall. There is no honor among thieves. You resolve to be on your guard. Turn to 241. Scarface leads you through a maze of back alleys into a building that Jimmy the Rat tells you is a safe house. Safe house. You climb onto the roof and continue running across the rooftops of the city. Soon you are on top of a tall house just below the top of the temple to Fel Kirinla. Bloodheart, hulking silent fellow, takes a rope and grappling hook from his shoulder. He effortlessly throws it round the top of one of the temple columns. He secures his end to a chimney stack and walks across on the tightrope he has created. You all manage to cross hand over hand and join him in the temple eaves. Jemmy the Rat, a wiry man with fingers like spiders' legs, finds a skylight and, true to his name, prises off the bars and picks the lock. Reaching inside, he disarms a trap containing a poisoned dart. You marvel at his nimble-fingered skill. They lower a rope and you all drop down to the top of the staircase. You catch sight of an old serving man passing a doorway on the landing. The others have not noticed him. Will you silence him in case he has seen you, or ignore him, hoping he didn't see you? Okay. I'll try ignoring him this time. I didn't do that last time. See what happened when I did. Let's see what happened last time. Yeah, I'm just going to ignore him this time. You hurry on down the stairs, but the old man has seen you. Turn to 283. Okay, that's not good. So that is here. From 228, we go to, to 283. You are padding silently along the landing towards the stairs which lead down, when the loud pealing of bells fill the air. The alarm, snarls Scarface. You freeze. Looking back, you're astonished to find that you cannot see the thieves you thought were behind you. All you can see are shadows. You're on your own. Will you go back to find the thieves or run down the stairs ahead of you? I'm going to go back to find the thieves. 213. Well, that doesn't work either. Okay. You run back into the room with the skylight, but there is nothing to be seen. The rope is gone and the skylight is shut. You hear the tramp of feet coming up the stairs. You look around desperately, but there is nowhere to hide. 10 other warrior women burst in. You fight valiantly, but there are too many of them. You are overwhelmed and slain. Turn to 109. So 109, that means I actually get to resurrect again. And so the story continues. Now, the problem now is, of course, that I will start repeating, doing exactly the same thing over and over and over until I get to this point where I actually am in the temple. So I should rather actually go back a few steps now and see if I can find the right path through, because otherwise I'll be stuck here forever. So what can I do differently that will possibly change the course of this? And that might be because the old man whom I spotted saw me, so I should try to silence him rather than ignoring him. So let's see what happens. So imagine I've done all the same things exactly like the start of the game now. I've played the whole thing from the beginning until here, this point, and the same thing has happened because I've made all the same choices. And most likely the combats would have turned out the same, and in any case I've actually had the option of regaining 8 stamina rather than the few that I have regained, and I would have been fine. And so we get to the point where you creep up behind the old man as he shuffles along the corridor. Would you use the pommel of your sword and try to knock him out, or strike him down with your sword? I will just strike him down with my sword and see if that gets me anywhere closer. And that does not actually work, I think. So, no, that doesn't work. So, again, I need to use the pommel of my sword. Let's see. So, you strike the old temple servant across the back of his neck with the pommel of your sword. He collapses soundlessly. You go to tie him up. Good work, says Lord Min, a small, agile young man. Now I'll finish it. He steps forward with his dagger, meaning to slit the old man's throat. Will you stop him, or let him kill the old man? I'm going to let him kill the old man, because it looks like that might be the only way forward. So, the old man gurgles softly and dies. Lord Min grins wolfishly. Lose 1 luck point for your callous actions. Well, I suppose that's just the way it has to go, maybe. I don't know if there's another way to do that now, but it looks like that is -1. You hurry on down the stairs which lead to a set of double doors. A guard is on duty, but she is overwhelmed before she can make a sound. Inside the inner sanctum of the temple, a tall raven-haired woman is praying at the altar upon which lies the Talisman of Death. She appears to be talking to her goddess, Felkirinda. Beyond the altar is a large marble statue of the goddess, wearing chainmail, her expression arrogant and cruelly beautiful. Cruelly beautiful? That's interesting. The tall woman rises and turns towards you. Hounds of hell. It's Hakon, the high priestess, breathes Jemmy the rat. I'm off. You look around to see the thieves have disappeared. Before you can try to follow, Hakon casts a spell and the doors fly shut. Turn to 222. How dare you desecrate the temple? How dare you interrupt me when I'm speaking with the goddess, she says softly, white with rage. I dedicate your soul to the goddess. She drives her fist into the air and chops it downwards. A pillar of flame descends from the vaulted roof. Roll 1 die. And so there are 2 possible outcomes. And so 1d6. And so if I roll 1 to 4, I go to 105. And if I roll 5 to 6, I go to 132. And I roll a 4, so that is going to 105. So it looks like I'm being smitten by the gods here. You jump aside at the last moment, but are still caught by the heat of the blast. Lose 3 stamina points. So stamina -3. If you're still alive, you may wish to use one of the following if you have any of them. Oh dear, I don't have any of them. A vial of vapors of speed, an amulet made from the horn of a unicorn, a scroll of agonizing doom. Didn't I see the amulet the other time? The first time I was playing. A scroll of agonizing doom, or none of these things. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 possibilities here. I'll just do like so. 76, 87, and this tells me, of course, there are other ways of getting to this point that might actually be better. So speed, unicorn, doom, none. Okay, I've got none of those things. I haven't even seen half of them. So let's see. Hakon draws her sword and advances on you, snarling with tigerish ferocity. You must fight the High Priestess. I presume these other things would have given you some kind of advantage in the battle, or even prevented the battle from happening. So there we are. So I've got I lost my 3 stamina, so I've got 17 left. So I've got 14, 17, and she has 12, 14. So it's going to be quite a battle, even if I do have a slight upper hand. Okay, so I got a 2-point skill advantage, and she rolls 11. I roll 8, so that's not a very auspicious beginning. Okay, she rolls 2, that's better. So she's down to 12. She rolls 5. I roll 6. She rolls 3. I roll 4. She rolls 8. I roll 12. I think critical hits should have been introduced in this game. 5, 8, 2, 7. This is going really well. And finally, she rolls a 5, and I roll a 5, and so she is actually dead. I still have to get out of this temple, though, without being killed. So, let's see. So 12, 14. And then I go to 44. Hakon collapses to the floor, lifeless. You walk to the altar and take the Talisman of Death. It is cold and heavy. At last you have regained it. Gain 1 luck, so I'm up to 9 again. You look back at Hakon and your scalp crawls. Her wounds are healing. Even as you watch, she tries to raise herself from the pool of blood in which she lies. Will you go back to Hakon or run to the double doors? Oh. So now I've got a bit of a conundrum. So if I attack her again and beat her again, somebody might come. If I leave, she might raise the alarm, somebody might come. Well, she's being healed by her goddess, isn't she? So I can't keep doing that. So I think basically I should just run for it. So 54 or 31. So that is go back or leave, run. I'll just put run. That sounds a bit more urgent. Okay, so I'm going to run for the double doors. The doors are still magically sealed shut. You cannot force them open. You turn to see that Hakon has risen to her feet and taken up her sword again. Her eyes are filled with malice. You cannot kill me. This time I will carve out your spleen. She is slower than before, but you must fight her again. Okay, so that... Okay. Looks like this might be a loop, because I see the winning paragraph is going... Oh, okay. Right, so... Am I just going to keep fighting her for all eternity, I wonder? Okay, let's see. So, I've got 14, 15. Let's see, 15 stamina. And she now has 9, 6. So I've got a 5-point skill advantage. She rolls 6. I roll 11. Oh, sorry, 10. So 4. She rolls 4. I roll 6. And she rolls 6. I roll 7. So she is dead again. And I go to 54. You notice that the ring on Hakona's finger is glowing with a green light as her wounds close up. Quickly you take it off before she comes fully back to life. You place it on your own finger. It's the ring of regeneration. Regain 6 stamina points. So now my stamina is 21, and I got a ring of regeneration. Will you now try to leave through the double doors or search the inner sanctum? Okay. So 16, leave. 1, 3, 7, search. I suppose I should search in the sanctum, and but of course, for convenience now, I'm gonna do another save game spot in case that is a terrible idea. Because again, I will be doing the same thing over and over again, so I'm going to... Yeah, I'm just going to leave. Okay. And that was a bad idea, so I'm going to keep my save game and leave. Okay. Okay, so... Don't do that. So... I'm using a lot of fingers in my book these days, but the thing is that I'm being a bit pragmatic about this, because the whole point for me of playing a game is to have fun. And if you get to the point where you die or you get defeated or something happens that sort of takes your enjoyment out of it and you feel like you have to go back, I think that's fine to do so. And also if you get to the point where starting over from the beginning and doing the same thing over and over and over again until you actually manage to do it, that to me also is very tedious and boring, and I don't want to do that. So I do apologize if you are a purist, don't watch this, you might get a bit disappointed. So the doors open easily. It seems the magic has faded now that Hakon is truly dead. The thieves have been spying on you through the keyhole. Scarface says, the door was locked and we couldn't get in. He leads the way back up to the skylight. If you still have Hakona's ring, you feel it grow cold and see that it has tarnished to a dull grey metal. Its magic only works within the inner sanctum. Suddenly the alarm bell tolls loudly. As you reach the top landing, a group of warrior women appears on the stairs behind you in hot pursuit. You all run for the rope hanging from the skylight. As you reach it, you sense a movement at your side and dodge the murderous thrust of Bloodheart's dagger just in time. Before he can strike again, the warrior women let loose a volley of crossbow bolts. Bloodheart's body is peppered with quarrels, shielding you as you climb the rope. Leaving the stricken Bloodheart to his fate, the remaining thieves jump agilely from the temple roof to the roof of a nearby house. You will have to jump too. Roll 2 dice. If the total is less than or equal to your skill, So test of skill. So test skill. And that is 163 or 56. Fail or succeed. My skill is 12 for these kinds of purposes, so automatically I will succeed. and I go to 163. You land safely next to the thieves. Scarface looks surprised to see you. Bloodheart? He inquires. Failed, you treacherous dogs, you reply, brandishing your sword. Jemmy the Rat turns tail and flees across the rooftops. Lord Min looks at Scarface and shrugs. I'm not fighting the killer of Hakon, he says. They swing under the eaves and climb like spiders to an open window. Not wishing to attempt this climb, you make your way back to the safe house across the rooftops and climb down to the street, where you stop to regain your breath before leaving the city. Turn to 235. So, 235. So it looks like this chapter of the story is over. So, as you catch your breath, 3 shadows appear on the road before you. Looking up, you see Chuchov and Cassandra, with a hideous squid-like creature hovering in the air between them. One of the squid's tentacles is curled loosely around Cassandra's waist. We meet again, says Chuchov. Young Lord Min tells me you have been successful. Congratulations. You have done us a favor. Now you'll be glad your peril is over. We are taking the Talisman. Grimly you draw your sword. I see, says Chuchov, gesturing. Then let me introduce Thome. He continues, gesturing towards the squid-like monster. Its form dissolves and becomes the man with the gold earring and flowing grey robes you saw producing flowers out of the air for the crowds. He is a master of illusion. At that moment, the huge and ugly troll appears from within the safe house. Here is Hag, says Thome. Hag raises a huge hammer, ready to strike you. Is he real, or is he one of Thome's illusions? If you attack the troll, turn to 45. If you allow his hammer to strike you, turn to 141. Okay. I think I would have noticed a big troll with a hammer in the safe house. Okay. Attack. I'm going to let this hammer hit me and see what happens. That sounds a bit risky, but there you go. Hag disappears before the hammer lands. Very good, says Thome. Now what about this? Turn to 171. Okay. I feel like I'm being tested now. While Chuchov draws his sword, Thome points at you. From his finger, a ball of multicolored fire flies towards you. Will you try to avoid the fireball by running at Chuchov, or hold your ground? Okay. I'm going to run towards Chuchov. Let's see what happens. The firebolt bursts behind you, but a burning pain sears your back and you smell charred cloth. Lose 3 stamina points. Okay, so my stamina is now 18. So, okay, that seems like the right answer in that case. So, if I'd stayed still, the fireball would have hit me directly and I would have been even more injured. So I'm going to 265. 265. Chuchov's bastard sword, almost as long as you, hums through the air as he parries your first attack with the agility of a cat. The black cloak he wears makes it difficult for you to tell exactly where he is. Cassandra and Thorm, looking confident, stand back to watch. You fight each other. Okay. It's amazing how good he is at fighting according to the description, and yet he's only got a skill of 10. Okay, so skill of 10, stamina of 12. I am at 14, 18. He is at 10, 12. I like putting mine last because I'm doing it first, my opponent, and then me when I'm rolling the dice. So I've got a 4 skill point advantage, and it says after your first successful attack, turn to 301. So he rolls a 6 and I roll a 4, so that is me hitting him, and then I go to 301. As soon as you wound Tuchel, you notice Thorm gesturing. Tuchel becomes invisible, and to start back in surprise, Cassandra is upon you, a sword darting at you. Tuchel reappears behind you, raising his sword to strike, and Thorm is gesturing again. You feel threatened from all sides, and you are hard-pressed to defend yourself. Do you wish to call upon a god for aid, or do you think you can triumph by the skill of your own hand? I think actually this sounds like a good time for the All-Mother to come to my rescue, I think. So, let's see, no, that's not the right one. So 301, so it's a 10, 12, and 1 hit. And then we go to either 330 or 292, okay, or God. Okay, so I'm going to call upon the god for aid. So I'm going to go to 330. Which god will you call upon? So obviously by this time you will have been given the option of meeting some of these other ones as well, interestingly. So Avatar the One, Life Spirit, Roshaval, God of Paladins, the All-Mother of Fate. I'm going to call upon the All-Mother. I know how to do that. So, I should put down the options there. Let's see, 330. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 options. I'm sure that some of these other ones I probably won't have any effect whatsoever because you don't know how to call on them. 347, 284, 361, 389, but maybe they would have come anyway just to, because it might be in their interest to do something about this. So 1 Spirit, Rocheval of Fate. So I'm going to call upon the All-Mother, which is what I know how to do. You are swept up in the talons of a great white eagle. Your assailants are soon specks below you on the street. Rising high above the rooftops, you look to the southeast and see far away a mountain on top of a large plateau. A voice speaks in your head, the voice of the All-Mother. That is Mount Starreach, your goal. At its summit lies the portal that will take you back to your own world. For a moment it seems the eagle will bear you to the mountain, but the talisman seems to weigh like a ball of lead around your neck, and the eagle is forced to land in a deserted alley of Store Street. Before you can thank it, it takes to the air again and is soon soaring far above the city. Are you wearing magical chainmail? I am indeed. So 375 or 258. Chainmail or not. Okay, so I'm wearing magical chainmail and I'm going to 375. Store Street is an extension of Moorgate, the road leading to the arch through which you entered the city. The market day crowds are thronging the streets, and you look around nervously. Will you hasten down Store Street to the Moorgate arch, lie low in an alley until evening, or if you had dinner with a sage, ask the way to the cemetery? So, 2, 3, 7, 1, 2, 6, 2, 6, 1. So clearly you can get to this point without actually, you can call on the All-Mother without having had the encounter with the priestess of the All-Mother, it appears. And so that is interesting, I think. So arch 1, 2, 6, stay 2, 6, 1, cemetery, and I keep making these smaller and smaller. So I'm going to go to 261 and ask for the cemetery. Stop a passing student who directs you to the cemetery. You run down Pallbearers Row, anxious to escape from the city. As you approach the cemetery, an ox cart returning from the market loses a wheel and overturns, almost blocking the road. You run for the gap between it and the cemetery wall, but it is blocked by a man with a shaven head. He wears baggy scarlet trousers which end just below the knee, and a loose scarlet jacket tied with a black cotton belt. On his forehead is a tattoo of a scarlet praying mantis. He doesn't seem inclined to let you pass. Looks like some kind of warrior monk or something. Ask him politely to let you through. Tell him to get out of your way, or attack him. Right, 3 options. So 3, 3, 8, 3, 1, 1, and 2, 8, 8. Attack, tell, or ask. Okay. I'm wondering, should I just attack him right away, or should I ask him politely? I'm going to ask him politely. Politeness does sometimes. He does not let you pass. Will you step aside and invite him to pass first, or ask him less politely to move out of the way? So that means that opens up another option, which is 3, 7, 9. Okay, so I will invite him to pass first. You step back and wave the monk through. He walks past arrogantly without a word of thanks. Turn to 392. So 392. Dusk is deepening as you enter the cemetery. You begin to explore the city wall, looking for the postern gate. You do not look at the headstones for fear of finding your name at the head of an open grave. Your eye is caught by what looks like a lantern hanging from a post in the midst of the graves. Will you walk over to the lantern, or ignore the lantern and continue searching along the wall? Okay, so we have a lantern or search. So 2, 7, 4 lantern, or 99 search. Should I check out the lantern? I'm going to check out the lantern. Actually, before I check out the lantern, I'm going to have a meal so that my stamina is back to 22. So I'm going to use a provision. Have a little rest there. And I just noticed I've got a little bit of tea left. But a good cup of Earl Grey still tastes nice when it is cold, just like a good espresso. Okay, I'm going to check out the lantern. You thread your way through the moss-covered tombs and headstones. As you approach the light, it shimmers and moves towards you. Floating in the darkness, you are entranced. The will-o'-the-wisp draws you. I thought it might be a will-o'-the-wisp. The will-o'-the-wisp draws you mesmerized towards a large grey tomb. A withered hand thrusts through the earth beneath your feet and grabs your ankle. You hack at it, but yet another mouldering arm grips you. There is a grating noise as a fiendish ghoul staggers from the tomb before you. Other zombies erupt from the earthy graves around you. In your panic, you find the strength to rip yourself out of the ghastly grasp of the zombies, but the ghoul is almost upon you. You must fight it. Okay, so I've got 5 rounds to win, looks like. Okay, so 7, 8, and then we have option 3, 4, 3, or 2, 9, 8. So win 5 or alive. Okay, alive 5. Okay, so I have to win this within 5 rounds, really. So, so I am 14, 22. The ghoul is 7, 8. So I do have quite a good advantage there of 7 points. So the ghoul rolls a 6. I roll a 6, 7. So he's down to 6. 1 round. He rolls a 4. I roll a 7. He's down to 4. He rolls a 7. I roll a 7. He's down to 2. And finally, perhaps he rolls a 9, and I roll a 10. So he is dead, defeated. I think I'll go with defeated within 4 rounds, and I go to 343. And this obviously is, let's see, this whole encounter there is red because that's not where you're supposed to go. With a mighty slash, your sword bites into the pale, slimy neck of the ghoul, decapitating it. It slumps to the floor, truly dead at last. As fast as you can, you spring past the questing arms of the lumbering zombies and dash back to the wall, knowing you must find the postern gate as soon as possible. Turn to 99. So that was just a roundabout way of getting there and kind of a little trap there. So I am going to... So that was not the correct path. This is correct path, that's correct path. And there we are. Okay. You continue along the wall and to your relief find the postern gate. You duck through and out into the night beyond, gain 1 luck point for escaping the city. So my luck is now back to 10 points. And I have escaped and go to paragraph 8. So there we are. So that's luck +1 and paragraph 8. Well, this is where I think I should actually do a completely new page of map. Leave these 3 pages for the city. And I'm going to go down here and finally back on squared paper, which I do so prefer. I'm going to put paragraph 8 here. I came from 99. So this is outside the city at last. And there we are. So FF11, I'll just put, just so I don't mix up my maps, I'll just put the book number on the corner there. I'm keeping all my scrap draft maps just for fun as well. So I'm going to do a sort of show and tell one day when I just present my messy maps. Perhaps I'll do a special one time where I do that. Right. You put several miles between yourself and Grey Guilds and sleep the night in a hayrick. You awake refreshed, gain 2 stamina points, so +2 stamina. Which direction will you take towards the plateau? You could take the direct route southeast across rough moorland, continue along the old trade road due south for a while and then strike east, or head east across the heath to the hills before turning south. I do believe, did not the sage tell me to go southeast? Or was he just telling me the general direction to the place? 300 or 330. 13, so that is southeast, south, then east, or east, then south. Let's see. Ooh. I'm going to take the most direct route and try that. See how that gets me. Now, what I'm going to do now probably is I'm going to say this is my save game point now. I've done the first part of the adventure. It looks like it's very episodic in a way. I've managed to keep my talisman, and from now on I'll just... so I'm going to start here next time if I don't make it. Otherwise, the beginning is going to take a really long time and basically be the same as what I just did. So that's what I'll do. Okay. So this is my save game point, and perhaps I'll just do a quick photo of my character sheet. So that's my save game character sheet there. Okay. So there we are. I've saved my game. So I'm going to go southeast and go to 287. The going is difficult, and the darkening skies do nothing to raise your spirits. The talisman becomes heavier with every step, and the pouring rain soaks you to the skin. You're almost thankful when night comes and you can burrow down in the dead bracken. Unfortunately, your sleep is broken by a wild neighing. You jump up to see a massive black stallion, its eyes pits of fire, galloping towards you. It snorts clouds of glowing cinders as it strains at the bit. Its rider, a dark spectral figure, is hunched and twisted and seems to have no substance. You can sense the hatred it feels for all living things. This is another minion of death here, and a nightmare, it sounds like. Will you run from it, hoping it cannot charge across the broken ground, or light a torch and stand your ground? Well, I'm going to light a torch and stand my ground, because I don't think this spectral rider and horse is going to respect uneven ground. I think they might actually be able to gallop in air a little bit. So, I am going to stand my ground. 207 or 219. Run or stand. So I will stand. 207. Your pitch-soaked torch flares brightly. The Wraith reins its hell steed in before you. This is a bit like Lord of the Rings, isn't it? You're carrying the ring, the Talisman of Death, and the Talisman Wraiths are coming to get you. So yeah, some clear inspiration there from the master. Anyway, the Wraith reins its hell steed in before you. It carries an aura of fear, but you stare defiantly into the black emptiness of its face. It hisses with frustration, and in a voice hoarse with age says, "Death will take what is his, and you shall become one of us, for we shall return with our full strength. We are the instruments of death." It turns its nightmarish steed and disappears into the night. Your rest thereafter is troubled, and you regain only 1 stamina point. Turn to 154. Okay, so that sounds like the correct thing to do for that encounter. Right. As the sun rises, you set off once more across the wild plains. With every hour that passes, the talisman seems to grow heavier. You realize that it is registering the presence of the minions of death. Do you wish to examine it again, or keep it hidden in case it may draw them to you? Yes. So exactly like the ring. Okay, so I'm going to keep it hidden. So 127, 138. Examine. Right, I'm going to keep it hidden. Oh. You force yourself on through the wilds of nature's creation, but the singing of the birds sounds hollow to you, and premonitions of death haunt you as you stumble on in a waking dream. At nightfall, you build a large fire and set torches around it. Unable to sleep, you wait and listen. The talisman grows heavy. Soon the wild neighing which disturbed your sleep yesterday peals again, rendering the peace of the night. The chilling challenge is answered again and again. Soon, to your horror, 6 of the nightmarish horses, eyes and nostrils aflame, appear, each bearing the crooked, life-hating spirit of a wraith. They form an arc, all staring at you intently. In unison, their cracked voices cry, "We are the instruments of death. We have come to claim you for our master and to take back the talisman." You stand with the fire between yourself and them, but they urge their horses through the flames. Under their attack, you feel your life force ebbing away. You become like them, a travesty of life, forever doomed to an existence filled with hatred and jealousy of all living things. So basically you become a wraith, which is kind of cool in a way. So that is the end. But an interesting end, I think. So I am really enjoying this book, so I think that next time it's going to be quite exciting too. Now, quite suitably, actually, I did make my save game now just before the end of this episode, which means that the next episode, in a way, will almost be like a continuation of the previous one, because I got my save game just after leaving the city, and basically I'm going to do exactly the same through the city. I don't think I'm going to do anything differently unless I get to a place that shows me that my path was not the ideal one. So next episode I will start from just outside the city, and I will make some slightly different choices for how I get away from the Wraith, if I even take that path, the direct path southeast at all. So I hope you enjoyed watching that, and if you did, please like, share, subscribe, comment, all those things. If you didn't like it, you are free to leave a dislike, but please also let me know why, because otherwise that's not helpful at all, and it's just a bit boring, to be frank. But I don't mind. Getting dislikes on my videos means people are actually clicking on them, if not necessarily watching them before they dislike, so that's all right. Okay, so thanks for watching, and goodbye for now. And yes, next time, more Talisman of Death. Very exciting stuff. Bye-bye.